turn you guys loose. Okay. All right. Looks like it's rolling.
Yeah, the ad is on. After the ad break. Almost. Come on.
Yeah. Actually,
electric.
it is rolling. So
Okay.
I'm going to mute myself. Have a great show, guys. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, you bet.
Thank you. I think right after this Hummer ad. There we go. This is Wednesday again. Thank God the election is over. I am interviewing Laurie Szujewska. Okay, yeah. Okay, now that we've got that done, she is a printmaker that uses obscure and out of date printing techniques. God, behind you almost looks like an old mimeograph machine almost.
It's a Vandercook Universal One letterpress proofing press.
Okay. And how old is that?
I believe it was made in 1960.
Oh, okay. So it's relatively new.
Yes.
I mean, as it relates to us.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, looking at you, I know you were in the Bay Area for a while with Adobe.
Yes.
And you were a designer and art director. Very prestigious jobs, it sounds like to me. And then you just went 160 degrees and exploring obscure printing methods. Can you square those corners, or to tell me how one got from there to where you are today?
Well, actually, I started out learning about printing and graphic design through letterpress printing, and I wanted to be a graphic designer. And for me, most at that time, a lot of printers and typographers, I love typography, they were also printers. So I moved to New York with some of my friends from college who were musicians and composers. Okay. And I got a job in the printing industry, and I worked at a print brokerage that job printing to all these various printers that used to be down in downtown New York. Okay. And I got a printing press through my adventures in that job. And I also got work through my job, but also my musician and composer friends and artist friends, I did graphics for all of them. Okay. And for an organization called Roulette, which is Roulette Music, roulette.org, it's still alive today. They present new music, avant-garde music.
Okay. Anything that was avant-garde then is knowable to anybody outside of New York now?
Oh, yes. I mean, John Zorn, Fred Frith, many musicians, current musicians now, up and coming composers, they present their work there. And okay. And when I started out, they were just starting out, and they let me design whatever I wanted for their they gave me the copy and who was going to be on the show, and then they let me do whatever I wanted. And because I worked in the printing industry, I was able to buy printing and typesetting at cost. Okay. So I could experiment and play around, and they would pay the bill. I didn't get paid at all, except I got to, do whatever I want and learn about graphic design and build up a portfolio.
That's great. Yeah.
Yeah, it was really great because I was also in a band while I was there called The Chairs, and it was a lot of fun.
I bet you, yeah, that would have been a wild time to be in New York. That was
Oh
just,
yeah, it was
everybody was just coming up. I mean,
right.
Warhol had now become Warhol instead of Andy Warhol, and that. And do you hang out at the? Do you ever go to the? Did you know Andy Warhol?
No, well, he's there. That generation is a little bit older than me.
Oh,
Um, that and it was I was there with CBGB's was down the street.
okay,
Um, John Cage and used to come to our concerts sometimes. Um, it was all experimental music
sure,
and dancers.
okay,
And it was in Jim Staley, the founder, had a loft, and that's where all the concerts were. Um, so it
very
was pretty minimal at that time. But now they have a space in Brooklyn, right near downtown Brooklyn, right near the that big sports center. Uh, can't think of the name right now, but anyway,
okay.
it's a cool place.
So then, what took you then from New York and doing all of that stuff to Adobe, which again seems to be, it's now that I know where you came from, where you are now makes a lot of sense to me. I'm curious on how you got kind of sidetracked to for Adobe.
Well, I decided I went to grad school because I decided I never went to art school. So I decided I needed to know more about graphic design and color and drawing and everything else. So I went to grad school at Yale School of Art. And then after I graduated, I really wasn't a New Yorker. I come from Chicago and I didn't really want to stay there. And I came to California with a friend, and I was looking for a job, and I went down to Silicon Valley for an interview, and it was really bad. And then I had two friends from Yale who were interns at Adobe, and they invited me over to show me around. So I went there, and I had my portfolio because I had been on this interview,
Sure.
and I met some people there, and they said, well, you should have an interview with Russell Brown. I don't know if you know Russell Brown. He's a guru of
Okay.
Adobe product. And I got a job there. And I worked there for 7 years, and it was very exciting. They were inventing Illustrator and Photoshop and page composition software. And for me, being able to play with type on a computer at that time, it was so much easier than having a letterpress. And I had to leave my letterpress anyway in New York because I couldn't bring it across country. I didn't have any money, and I didn't know where I was going to live. So I just left it there. And then I came, once I was settled here, a few years later, somebody offered me their letterpress. They said, if you can have this press, but you have to have somebody move it out of here. And I got some printing press movers, and I had a place now, which is this studio, and they moved it in here and started printing again on it.
Okay.
So it wasn't totally new, and it wasn't a 180. It was something that I had loved and then given up for the computer and then went back to.
Okay. Okay. No, I can see how working with text, yeah, a computer would be so much. I mean, yeah, I remember, press type, and
Yeah,
to get any type of interesting design, you'd go in and there'd be, a whole, just like, well, Adobe, I mean, it was the press type instead of type on demand. And
right.
so I could see how that would just be an amazing opportunity to get in there pretty much on the ground and be able to play with all that stuff.
Yes, and it was great because you were inventing the software working with the engineers, and they would make things, and then they would say, can you play with this and show me what you can do with it? And then you would do that. My job was also to, Adobe used to publish this magazine called Colophon, and it was a newsletter that was supposed to show off Adobe products. And so my job was to make this magazine.
Okay.
So it was fun.
Good. No. Looking through your site, I noticed I liked your book section. I mean, I went through it all, but I really loved the milk container. And I guess I like the text and the juxtaposition, but is the text on there have any connection to the milk container? Or is that just design?
The text is actually starts from the dictionary definition of the word milk, and it shows the derivation of the word and where it comes from, and then it breaks down into when I made it, I wanted to make something that was irrational and an improvisation. So it's an improvisation with type, and I wanted to make a painting with type, but at the same time, in the end, I wanted it would be a painting if you looked at it flat, and if you folded it up in the shape of a milk carton, it would also be like a sculpture.
Okay.
So that was.
Now, was that the only kind of container that you've worked on like that?
Well, I did. There's that other book on my. Do you want me to show these or?
Sure.
Let's see. Let me go here. Let me. Okay. Here's the milk carton down here.
Yes.
Here it is flat. See, here it is flat. This is
I really love the abstract nature of the text. I mean, that just really seems, and then putting it into 3D really just kind of really makes it amazing to me.
It was that was the thing about having your own printing press as well, because I had this where I lived in Brooklyn. I lived in a loft, and I could just work on it and leave it there and continue. I didn't have to. I used to also study at the Center for Book Arts in New York, but because I had my own press, I could just work on this, painting, and leave it there and take my time.
No, that took a lot of experimenting to get all that type where you wanted it to be.
Yes, well, having worked in the printing industry, I knew about die cutting and all the different printing processes, and I collected quart milk containers from all the dairies around where I live, all the bodegas around where I lived, because they all came from different dairies. And I took them apart, and then you could see the structure of how they cut those milk cartons and put them together. And then I had a template in which I used to cut out the flat sheets. And as I was making it, I could tell how it was going to work. I would check it every once in a while.
Okay. So I took a letterpress class, over a weekend years ago. Now, on the milk container, now those are all hand set. Each piece is hand set single,
yes.
Right?
Right.
Okay. That's what I assumed. Okay. So you had a lot of spacing to play with, and really.
Yes, I had a lot of.
Took you a while to get the feel of it.
Well, you just there's all those little pieces, and it's like a puzzle,
Yeah.
and I've always loved puzzles, and so it was just it's a natural thing for me. I don't know. I love playing with the little forms. You know, now I have all these wood types, which are you know, these large letter forms. Um,
So those are antique, or are they?
there are old wood types that I have collected. I don't have that many. I don't have a lot of stuff. I have about, I don't know, 20 sets of wood types, and I have a double case of Universe metal type, and that's all I have. And I have enough to do what I need to do. I don't like to be a hoarder of things.
Well, I'm
And
sorry. I wish I could say the same, but then yeah, but so the imperfections are part of the type, or part of your inking, or
the wood type is, all of it is used. It's time worn. It has all sorts of imperfections. A lot of some of it still has ink on it, you know, and and as you, I love that all those imperfections come up when you print with it. I'm not a perfectionist type of printer. I like to I like the inconsistencies and flaws that come up when you're printing. I think it just gives the work a lot more life, and I think it's beautiful. So
no, I would completely agree. I mean, that's my whole, I mean, using old objects is that implied history, or with me, how did it get to me? And I collected, hundreds of hammers for a project, and each one was just a little different. And, I, that's what I've always loved. I've always been a collector. I started out as a photographer because my hand would never do what my eye saw. And so I grew up in the Midwest, very, not a lot of exposure to any type of contemporary art at the time, let alone, I think I went to the St. Louis Art Museum with my mom once, and we saw a Monet show. So photography to me was just a natural element. But then it got too flat. It got, and I loved being in the dark room. Probably it's the same way as you like being working with wood type on a press. Doing it. Yes, not doing it with Adobe, and you can spend hours blowing it up and getting rid of all your dust and all that. And I said, no, that just isn't photography to me. And so luckily at the same time, I was adding elements, found photos and text and things like that to my photograph. And so it was a natural kind of progression to start going more to the objects and less to the photography. So yeah, no, it's the oldness of it. And that's what I figured the imperfections were from. But I just wanted to make sure.
okay.
No, that's really, yeah, no, that makes the pieces. You're absolutely correct. And it makes them, and even on a series, I mean, they're all going to be a slightly different.
Right.
There's going to be a little bit of individuality to each one, just because of, yeah, how you inked, or what shape it's in, and whatever. Yeah, I mean, that's makes it. Absolutely. Um, then, well, tell me a little bit then about your bright abstract prints. I was kind of, I don't know, surprised when I saw that section in the on your website.
Was that the shape prints or
Yeah, yeah, with the
um
really bright colors and stuff.
that I love color, and I love the process of printing, and I like overlaying colors and seeing what happens. And I also letterforms are shapes, and but I also cut those shapes myself, and so I can work with shapes besides letter forms. Um, and I just like the whole process of printing and discovering, what happens when you lay things over one another.
Sure. Okay. So
And
you've
I like
made
the expressiveness of shapes.
well, and then yeah, and that's and obviously text is has probably more shapes than anything else. At least that man has made.
Right, right. Letter forms are all shapes. Um,
Yeah. No, and so you mimicked your wood press with your own shapes and and inked it up and then and then did you still use a press on it or were your abstract ones hand pressed on hand pressed onto the paper?
no, I have a wood plate
Okay.
that you put a piece of plexiglass on it, and then you can put different things that will stick to that plexiglass, like
Oh,
magnets or vinyl, and then you can ink up that, and it's type high, so it will print in the press, and you just put it in the bed of the press and you print it, um,
okay.
just like you would if there were letter forms in the bed.
Right.
It's a little trickier because it's not really made to do that. That's another thing I like to explore, is what other things I can do with this press besides what it was originally made for. Like, what can I put in this bed to make this more interesting, or play around, or see
Okay.
what happens.
And
Have
what
an
other things have you done? I suspect, yeah, I mean, what's worked, what hasn't? I'm just curious.
Oh, um, well, what's work? What haven't? Well, one time I tried wrapping the type in with various materials, and I ruined the type because it smushed into the wood type.
Oh,
And then it's also I do a lot of, if you put a flat sheet of vinyl in there on this type high surface, you can paint on there, and but it's very you have to be willing to just do it and see what happens, because you can't, it's very uncontrollable.
right.
So and I like doing that. I like not knowing what I'm doing. I find if I think about whatever I'm doing too much, it gets to be boring. It loses its life. So
Get stuck up in the head and
yeah,
not
I like
not
to just set up a system, and then work in that system, and 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 see what happens without being religious about it.
right, right. So a lot of your work has, I mean, it deals with social issues. Um, Now, was the work that you did for Not Normal specifically for? Because I see now, are those? I can't. No, those aren't in the no. Because you have just what's the one that's in the book? I should have
I
had.
have I think Trump's only mandate is Putin.
Yeah,
Um,
that's in there. Yes, I
there's one
remember
about
that one.
science. Science makes the USA great. Um, I think there's a third one. I can't remember. I
Yeah.
don't know if it's send the a-hole back to his shithole. I don't know. See, I started making those as this group, as when Trump became elected and we started having protests. So they were originally protest posters.
Okay.
Um, and and then I would just make them, things would happen and I would just make one, because I can just come out here in about an hour and make one, hour
Sure.
and a half. And things would just upset me, and so I would make them. And sometimes the words are clever, and sometimes they're just very clear. I like clear, minimal, concise language. And I think that comes from, I have a undergraduate degree in journalism.
Okay.
So, and also these kind of posters harken back to broadsides, which were, early social media, really.
Right.
They started in 1600s, and, they were in use. They still, everybody, when you go to see a music concert or whatever, they put posters and broadsides up all over the street.
Right.
So, also they harken back to, newspapers when they used to have, like the New York Post or the Daily News or Chicago Sun-Times, when they'd have big headlines on the front of the paper. That's just simple, clear message.
Yeah.
And so many things today are, everybody's always exploring and experimenting and their feelings and all that other kind of stuff. And sometimes I just like to be plain, concise, and just be clear.
Right.
Because even if you're clear, that message doesn't necessarily, the message that you had in your head doesn't necessarily get to the person who sees it. So
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Obviously not everybody's going to agree with it. And,
right.
but, yeah, I mean, disagreement, I guess, is I'm flattered, I think, at times that when someone disagrees with me because they've taken enough time to express, an honest opinion. I mean, they're not walking in and say, "Oh, that's just shit," and walk out the door. But if someone, I think critique is. See, I didn't go to art school either, so I never had the critiques, and I never had, had to do whatever I needed to do in what particular class. And so so I guess that's part of what I'm trying to do at shows or fairs of, is getting critiqued. So how did you meet Karen?
You know, I post my work on Instagram and Facebook, and I think I know at least one other artist who's in that book, uh, and she just contacted me one day and said she really liked my work and would I send her images, and I sent her images of all my posters. She was interested in these political posters, and I sent them all to her, and she chose what she wanted for her book.
Yeah.
So that
No,
was
yeah.
great.
I thought when I got the email, I went, okay, let's see is this something real, or is this some other scam?
Right.
That, someone's going to want money or want something to be in this book. You get those things all the time. And so, but then I looked her up, and I and she was one of the first guests that I had on here, because she came on just right after the book was published. And no, I think she's an amazing woman.
Yeah, and she's done 2 books, right? Yeah.
And then she's working. Well, she did the Art Rage. I guess that's a gallery that's in Syracuse, and it does political work. She was asked to be connected with a multidisciplinary kind of, there was some performance art and things like that on political work. And the original little book came out of that. And then it just kind of started morphing. And then then it morphed into the book that we're both at.
Right. And there also was a show in Washington, D.C. at the Center for Political Art.
Right.
I can't remember the correct name.
I think so.
And I was in that show, and maybe she saw my work, my piece there.
Yeah. No, she found mine online. Yeah, I was, and we've become really, really nice, good friends now. And yeah, I'm really happy, and I guess very, very lucky that I was doing what I was doing for myself. And it connected with the right person, because
Right.
I really thought all the work that I was doing, this was all supposed to be my spring show. I had
Mhm.
there's a fair in San Francisco that's been running on for 5 or 7 years, and I was gonna do that, and that was gonna be all of my political work, and that blew up, right after everything went south with the virus. And so I was like, well, shit, now I'm not going to have anybody to see any of this stuff other than the few people that can see it on Instagram. And then Karen came along, and it was like, wow, at least somebody's going to see some of my work anyway.
Right.
So,
And she did a great job on that book,
oh
producing
yeah,
that book. And she does great PR. And
oh yeah, she's
yeah, yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah, no,
She's
I'm real happy with her. Oh God. Uh, wow. So what are you working on now?
that's a well, I've been making these collages, and which are where I cut up my old prints,
Okay.
and or when you're printing, you have a lot of things that you think are beautiful, but they're not what you were going for.
Right.
So um and a lot of it was just so lovely. I wanted to use it. So for a number of years now, I've been cutting things up and you know, manipulating them and doing collage. And
Okay.
I'm
Now
and
is
I can
that on
also
your
work
website
bigger.
also?
Hmm?
Are they on your website also?
Yeah, they're
Collage.
all.
Okay.
We can look at those. Here, let me get that.
Okay. So those all are just pieces of previous work.
Yes, well, they're also sometimes there's an image on the paper already, and then I paste over it.
Okay.
So it's cut up, and then it's
Then you
there's
add layers of print on top of it.
yes. I
Okay.
don't print on top of it. I add layers of cut up prints on top of it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it's and I like cutting up the letter forms and because there's a lot of different parts to a letter form and the different shapes, and so I like re looking at them in another way and
Yeah.
and melt.
Look, seeing that the parts sometimes are greater than the whole.
Right.
No, that makes, yeah, it's
So,
absolutely.
yeah.
So, any thoughts about last night?
Oh my. Well, I just hope everything all works out. I feel bad that haven't won more Senate races, the Democrats. But I haven't. I've tried to stay away from it because it makes me really nervous. So I'm just hoping that it all works out because I honestly don't know if I could, if I could take 4 more years of Trump. I
Oh,
think
I
I'd have
know.
to check out in some way. I don't really know how or where or what, but you know,
Yeah. No, I was thinking, yeah, told my wife that if Trump won, we'd move to Vancouver. Just,
yeah. Well,
just,
this year it's been a really tough year between the pandemic,
yeah,
Trump, the weather here, fire, windstorms, heat waves. You name it, we've had it. So I'm tired,
yeah.
and
No, it's,
um, I was thinking, I was thinking yesterday, well, maybe I would work on positivity instead of having to rage all the time. But I'm not sure what form that would take yet. So
Well, I think some of the abstract work see definitely. I mean, because you're just dealing with the shapes of it is definitely a positive. I see as positive work.
well, yes, I think that's positive too. But I was talking about the work with the
Okay.
words. Like
Yes.
what would, if I was gonna, do some more work with words, what would those
Words.
words be?
Yeah.
Um,
Okay.
because I think, having a printing press is to me like a real powerful thing. You can print whatever you want, say whatever you want, and so you want to say something.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, I can't wait to see what you next say.
Well, thank you very much,
Okay.
Clint, for.
So, how is the? I mean, talking about the fires, how close or how involved were you with all of that?
It was pretty close. It was about 30 miles. I also live at a high elevation
Okay.
in a very wooded area, and it can get very windy. And it's also, when they say there's fire, I still have my clothes are in suitcase. I have suitcases packed in my garage. I just took them out of my car um, from the last windstorm. Um, so it's been stressful because you're always ready to go. And I can't take that 2,000 pound printing press. I can only take a few things. So it's been stressful because every day you're saying goodbye. I mean, since
Hmm.
August 14th, when we had that lightning storm,
Right.
it's like, all right, how many times can I say goodbye to all my stuff? you know so
I think it's
I'm looking forward to the winter. I hope we have rain. So, you know, we'll have to see.
right. No, that's good. Okay. And air quality has gotten back to being reasonable up there then?
Oh yeah, it's been very good. We
Yeah, it's interesting how horrible it got down, around the bay. So, I mean,
yeah, it was shocking for everyone.
oh, yeah, I mean, God, I mean, it wasn't yeah, I mean, you couldn't it wasn't just the soot on the car and all of that. I mean, you looked online and, the weather's I mean, the air's at over 500, which is unhealthy for anybody at any time, and you go, and it felt like back at the beginning of the pandemic because my flea markets obviously shut down the minute that Oakland or the state, started clamping, closing things down. And so I think if I didn't leave my house for probably the first 10 days of it.
Yeah,
And, and with all the smoke and all of that, it was really kind of like that, couldn't go outside because the air was going to hurt me.
you're right.
But yeah, no, it's just been no, yeah. I mean, it's just we don't sweep our forced floors. I mean,
Oh
that
yeah.
you know.
Believe me, we do a lot of cleaning up here of debris. I mean, we've done our fair share, but
Oh, I don't doubt that. I mean, that's just absurd. But oh, uh, Julian, do you have a question?
Hi, I was muted. I was going to see if you guys wanted to put anything up for the poll. Did you have any thoughts on that at this
Well,
point?
I'm not exactly. I mean, so How many people are on Twitch right now anyway? I'm just curious.
Billions are on Twitch right now.
Billions. Oh, well, then we must do something. Huh? Now, explain to me what we're going to do. Because obviously, maybe some of our viewers have no idea what it is either.
From me or Laurie?
Julian, he's asking you.
I thought you were
I don't
asking
think
Laurie.
Laurie knows what you're wanting to to. I'm talking to
Oh,
you,
you're talking-
Julian.
It's just a way for a little further engagement. We don't have to do it right now. Here comes Katie.
I have a question that I had wanted to ask Laurie, and it
Okay.
actually might be fun in the context of a poll.
Okay.
Can the poll be open-ended and people can?
No, well,
No?
they can type more in the chat, or we can do pre-selected options.
They can type more in the chat. So it might be fun to make people use words to describe letters and or fonts that they particularly love. Since both of you are artists who love working with text and love working with letters as an abstraction, could we ask the audience to start telling us about letters?
Perfect.
And like what they love about letters and what kind of letter, like do they like it serifed, sans serif, fat, skinny, bold, skeletony, decorative, Western?
Well, and the text that you invented for
She invented Giddy Up
for Adobe.
Giddy Up.
What was the name? What's the name of it?
It's called Giddy Up.
Giddy Up. Yeah, I knew it had some type of Western connection to it.
Yes.
Okay.
Would you like to know about that?
Yeah. No, because it's a very playful, kind of very, not very clean and simple.
Well, when I was working at Adobe on one of the issues of Colophon, we had a Western theme. It was about, we just used that to tie the imagery together. And I made, using Illustrator, I made a few letter forms based on cattle brands.
Okay.
To use as in the layouts. And then later on, a few years later, because I did work for one of my main jobs later on was to work with the type development group doing design work for their fonts that they were developing at Adobe. And they asked me to make some more letter forms with that idea. So I did. And then the marketing department decided they wanted to do a set of children's playful typefaces. So they had various people in the design department, marketing, they asked the designers to make typefaces. So there was about, I don't know, quite a few, at least 6 or so. And then I took the Giddy Up and I expanded the whole typeface and made a whole font based on the idea of making letter forms out of a continuous line.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, it's fun. I mean, does anybody outside of Adobe really know that that's your typeface?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
A lot, it gets a lot of use. I'm surprised I see it in many different places, that I wouldn't expect. And, it's very popular. It's kind of, some people hate it, but I don't care,
Yeah. Did you get any?
It was an idea and I followed the idea to the end.
Yeah. Yeah. So do you get any fan mail from Giddy Up?
Not often. I have, not very, sometimes students in school, they wrote me and said, I have to write a story about an essay about a typeface and I want to do it on Giddy Up. Can you tell me about it? So
Okay,
yeah,
that's cool.
yeah, it's fun.
No, that would be, yeah, that would be interesting. I mean, I guess that's one thing we try to do as artists is that we leave at least a part of us behind that hopefully other people will enjoy and learn from.
Right.
So, I think that's so. What do you do up there when you're not not nailed to your press or not chained to your press? I have a feeling that it plays an important part of your life, but it's not a obsession.
Um, yeah, well, with the pandemic, I never go anywhere except to the grocery store and, and also to go for walks. And, and I have a big garden and I do that. And, I have a dog who needs to be walked and um, I have a husband and
Okay.
we do our life as, and we both, I have my letterpress and he writes and we have a
Okay.
good time.
So he's a writer. Does he do nonfiction, fiction? I mean,
Um,
short
he
stories.
he was originally in magazine publishing,
Okay.
and now he writes. He likes history, and he writes. Lately, he's been doing a lot of local history
Okay.
about
Well, I
because
would
he grew
imagine
up. His
maybe.
family's been in Petaluma since 1860.
Wow. Okay.
So
Yeah. No. Last time I was up there, I forget. There's an art handler that bought a. They have a warehouse in Petaluma, and I had to go pick up a pedestal
mm.
for for a gallery. And yeah, but it looks like a really nice place.
Oh, it's a great town. I love
Yeah,
living
it's
here.
close. It's close enough to here that you can get to the bay anytime you want, but it's far enough away that you don't feel like you have to deal with all
The
the
city.
normal BS.
Right. You can go visit the ocean.
Yes. Yeah. No, that's really important. Oh, let's see. Check out something press. I don't know. Feel free to add more in the chat about fonts. Okay. I mean, I guess one of my, I mean, I've used Century Gothic for years, just because I guess before that it was Arial, but I always like just very simple, and I guess there's a little bit more elegance to the simplicity in Century Gothic, and so I think maybe I've always been attracted to that just because the stuff that I'm writing is typically, you know um, socially connected or that. And so again, it's, I guess, playing with opposites with the type that I add on to um, to my stuff. Yeah, I mean, laser engraving was like an epiphany, I think, for me. I mean, it just was this beautiful way of being able to put type to put text on something without adding a layer to it, that by burning it in, it just seemed, because my stuff's always very tactile, and so I
Hmm.
think that's was the love of that, was a way of putting on text without, yeah, with taking something away from it. I think that's, maybe that's the opposite of 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 press type of, but it's I guess the simplicity within the uniqueness of the material. So yeah, I think um, so. All your work is connected to letters. All your art is connected to letters.
Well, sometimes I just work with ink and color, and but
But it's still,
lately,
but it's still
mostly
the
it's
press.
connected to letters. It's connected to letter, yes, or shapes, color, form.
Okay, but it all runs through behind what's behind you.
Uh, yeah, or some part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the constant element in everything is the press.
Right. Because
Okay.
you have only one life, and it you can if you I like exploring it as wide as I can.
Sure. Whatever happened to the press that you left in New York?
I believe the person the person I left it with sold out and probably made out like abandoned.
Yeah, he didn't have anything in it.
No, so
Yeah.
but I had to leave, and
No.
I couldn't. It was in the Center for Book Arts in New York, because I had a small studio within the Center for Book Arts at that time when I left. It was just 100 square feet, and I left it there and sort of donated it.
Okay. Yeah. No, it's serving the same need as you, but with somebody else.
Right.
I think
But
so.
the center, the San Francisco Center for the Book.
Yes.
Are you aware? Yeah. Well, it's the same kind of place.
Sure.
It was in New York. Yeah.
Yeah, right. You have members, and they sell they sell their books there, and they go out to
Workshops.
fairs and things like that. Yes,
Right.
sure.
A very
Okay.
good place.
Yeah,
Classes.
I've done a couple books. I think my first, it was photography, and I think it was 20 images, and I hand printed all of the images. All the images in the book were all on photographic paper, and then
Hmm.
in the front and the back, then I had a little text there. But that was, yeah, the first book that that I ever did, and that was 30 years ago, or at least 35 years ago. But what else? We've got a couple more minutes.
Quick question. Yeah,
Julie, what?
yeah. So there was a question in the chat about street art. Laurie, have you thought about doing any street art?
Well, most of these posters I made uh, for protesting, to go march in a protest. Um, Street art, I think, would be would be a lot of fun, but I have never, had the opportunity, or that's come up for me to make something, uh, big on the street. But I'm not sure exactly how I would execute it either. But I'm sure it can be done. So
Yeah, yeah. Or, I mean, have you ever thought of, doing something in pieces and then just gluing it up on a wall?
yes, I have. I'm actually working. I just started working on making something in pieces.
Okay.
Um, you know,
Do you have kind of
taking
an
large.
idea on the overall size yet?
No, I mean right now it's about I don't know, it's about 22 by 30, about 60 by 22.
Oh,
It's
okay.
not, it's not that big, but you can each. I mean, I have a lot of paper that's 22 by 30, um, so you can. I've been working in that size and putting those pieces together.
So the 20
But
by 30,
I have this really cool. I'll show it to you. I have these really cool
Oh,
giant letter
God.
forms.
How many point is that?
These are 20-inch type, I believe, what it
It's
is.
beautiful.
But oh yeah, it's amazing. I just have a few letter forms. I got it from this guy because I have a small paper cutter and I bought these I have a whole set of they're skinnier letter forms as well. And then there's a few of these really big ones. They're circus types for making circus posters.
Oh,
But I have another press that you can't see
okay.
that does 23 by 23. It was a newspaper proofing press. So these will fit in there, but you can't really do you can't do a word in there because they're
Sure.
so big.
Yeah.
You can print one on top of the other, and you can do short words. You can even put the skinny ones in there. Just hold on one second. I'll show you.
Okay.
These are the skinny ones.
Oh, yeah.
So I have a whole alphabet of these.
Oh,
So,
wow.
Yeah, so these are really fun because the surface is real.
You know what your original use was for? Just posters?
I think they were for making, billboards and circus posters.
Okay.
Because on the back of one of those large types, it's got like a circus poster piece of paper on the back. But the surface of these is really, it's really beautiful, and these are very worn, but and they're really fun to print with, and some of them still have ink on them, and when you ink them up, the ink that you put on reacts with the ink that's on the surface of the type, and you get these really beautiful effects. So they're really fun to play with.
No, just because I like industrial things, and those are amazing. I mean, I've got, I find little goofy things on press type from time to time, but nothing. Yeah, I found some numbers that were 8 inches, but that's about as big of any that I probably have seen some at antique shops, but
I have these. These are really cool too. These are giant numbers. I just have 6 of these, 6 numbers.
Oh,
this is a 5.
It's a beautiful font. Boy, you can tell the age of the font that it's, yeah.
Yeah, these are lovely.
Those are beautiful.
See that AR-15s up there?
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they're great.
Yeah, that's lovely. I love the patina. You can just see the care and the hard work that thing has done its life.
Yeah, and these are really good types because they're all one piece of wood. Sometimes you get this type where they have the letter form there's a better wood on top of the other wood.
Sure. Yes.
They're like 2-ply.
Right, for cost. The cheaper, the expensive stuff to make the text, and the cheap stuff to get it there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, we are just about out of time.
Okay.
Laura, I'm just completely happy with what we did. We should start out by just looking at text or typing. That was that's just beautiful. I mean, I would hang that in my living room without even any thought. That would just be okay.
Well, thank you very much for having me.
Okay. Do you want to tell people your website? What'll happen, Laurie, is that in a couple days, 3 or 4 days, Katie will get this up onto YouTube, and we'll put all your important information down at the bottom. But and
Okay.
then you'll get then she'll send you a copy of this also to do with what you would like. But do you want to pitch your website right now? All the beautiful
Well,
work
my
that you saw?
yeah, well, my website is under my name, but it's also it's called Ensatina Press, ENSATINA. But you can also get to that with my name. And Ensatina is a little salamander that lives up on here on Sonoma Mountain.
Okay.
And it's a deep purple, brownish purple, and then it's got an orange underbelly and these giant eyes. It's a really beautiful little creature. So
Sounds like it.
it lives up here, so that's why I named it that.
Great. Julian, I think we're done.
Alrighty then. So just hold on a minute and I will stop the stream. Thanks
Okay.
everyone for tuning in.
Thank you, Julian.
Yeah.
Thank you, Clint.
Oh, thank you. This was great. At least
And
at least we didn't spend the whole time commiserating.
absolutely.
Yeah.
True. So true.
Yeah.
Look forward to new things.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Katie.